And our third story in the countdown, the day after for Cindy, I read Rachel Ray's recipes so you don't have to, McCain. The explanation? It was the intern's fault. The intern! So don't blame the recipe plagiarism on the campaign of John the Buck Stops Here, except when underlings screw it up McCain. You may recall that Cindy's recipes on the McCain campaign website included 3 that were verbatim ripoffs from the Food Network, and a 4th one basically the same as Rachel Ray's rosemary chicken breast. And now, the serio-comic mess has been explained by a McCain spokesman, quoting, apparently a web intern added Rachel Ray to our policy team without her knowing it. He was swiftly dealt with. That's kind of ominous. And the page is down for revision. That spokesman, Tucker Bounds, also telling the New York Times, quote, we took away his 0 pay. But freelance writer David Weiner, who wrote the story on Huffington Post, said, quote, I'm not sure how an intern can be responsible for messing up the McCain family recipes. Did the intern lose Cindy's recipe box only to haphazardly try to replace them with Food Network recipes? And what about this? The plagiarized passion fruit mousse recipe, not elitist at all there, also appeared under Mrs. McCain's name in the New York Sun on January 16th of this year. Did the intern do that too? Let's bring in Air America radio host and MSNBC political analyst Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Rachel.
Hi, Keith.
And where's your intern? The devil's advocate question here, and I think I know the answer in advance, but why does this matter?
Well, I mean, this isn't War and Peace. This isn't McCain not supporting the GI Bill. This is not a policy issue, but this is exactly the kind of culture and authenticity issue that Republicans have pushed to the fore in so many recent elections. I mean, they're the ones who have been raising the alarm that John Kerry knows how to windsurf, that John Edwards combs his hair, that Barack Obama is bad at bowling. If this stuff is seen as salient for understanding Democratic politicians' character, then it ought to apply to Republicans too.
Yeah, you can't cook, but somebody can plagiarize for him.
Yeah.
This could have been a silly one-day story, but for it happened the same day as McCain's speech on the economy, and but for this explanation. Has the McCain campaign proverbially cooked itself up an actual mess here? Is this going to last?
Well, I mean, whether or not you care about whether it's Napa cabbage that Cindy McCain puts alongside her ahi tuna medallions, I mean, whether or not you care about the specifics of this, you might care that things that are being put forward as stuff passed down through the generations as McCain family treasures are actually either made up whole cloth or plagiarized off the internet by interns. And you might care that when caught out for this, they blame the intern and don't apologize. I mean, you might care about the way they functioned around this stuff, and they handled it kind of poorly.
Yeah, well, of course, there is still theoretically the literal chance that it's true, because his mother, who he always brings out on stage, is 97 years old or whatever the number is, and she could have seen it on the TV network, on the Food Network, given it to Cindy, and then that wound up. So that's generations right there. That's a couple of generations. But this got worse today. The Cindy McCain thing, as noted by Wonkette, the 3-minute no-bake cookies in Yankee magazine of December 2007. So now this goes back to December. That's right off the Quaker Oats website. Yeah. Now, it could have been worse. She could have attributed these recipes to Sunni when she meant Shia. But are we now going to have, a vetting, and is it symbolic of anything? We're going to have a vetting of every recipe that has ever been put out under Cindy McCain's name?
She could have said this was David Petraeus' job description and not hers. I mean, the big picture here is
I don't know a lot about cooking. Yeah. That's right. I didn't mean I don't know a lot about cooking. I meant I never took a quiz about cooking. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Republicans have decided that culture really matters in politics. And so they create these very intricate, masculine, patriotic characters for their politicians to inhabit. And every once in a while, the costume kind of slips, the mask kind of slips. Like George W. Bush's early presidential bios didn't mention where he was born, because the character George W. Bush was from Texas. Right. So it was awkward that real George W. Bush was born in New Haven when his dad was at Yale. Same thing with the ranch in Crawford, right? They built that on the occasion of Bush's run for the presidency. And now that his run for the presidency is over, he and Laura, who have never lived there, are not moving to there. They're moving to Dallas. There's all of these things that show this stuff to be fake. They're characters. And the question is whether or not voters feel duped when they learn that when they learn that these things are fake. I mean, this whole Republican idea of the masculine character running for office is the whole justification for Fred Thompson's candidacy. Well, he already looks like the character. He didn't really bring anything else to the table. But they've invested a lot in this pattern of getting elected.
And this is the guy that, in other words, the entire primary process was a casting call, and this is what they came up with, Mr. and Mrs. Presidential candidate.
Bingo.
Well, yeah, and with a little help from the net. Rachel Maddow of Air America and MSNBC. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.